In this video series, we are going to begin with the JavaScript. JavaScript is basically a scripting language which can be embedded in a HTML page. HTML page simply means any web page which is running on World Wide Web. Once you embed the JavaScript in the page, you can provide the various functionalities to that particular web page, such as you can put some validations, you can make the page even more interactive, you can put some animation kind of things. So that is all we can do using the JavaScript. So make sure before getting started with the JavaScript, you have the sufficient knowledge of HTML and CSS, as we will be working with the web page, and these two are the important things which you must know for creating the interactive web page. Now here, as I just said, it's a scripting language, but if I'll add something more, I will say it is a client-side scripting language. Client-side means whenever you will execute the JavaScript on a web page, the complete execution will happen on the client side only. There will be no server-side interaction while executing the JavaScript. That's why whenever we'll try to do some operations like putting the validations or doing the animation like things, everything will execute on the client side, which will also efficiently execute the page, means the performance of the page will be more better. Now something more about JavaScript, let's see. It is untyped. Untyped means, if we know something about the programming languages, you may know about the thing called data types, which specifies the type of data we are going to process. But while working with JavaScript, you will observe like it is untyped, means it is not a type safe language. So whenever you will have to store something, you will just use a variant type, and that type can store any type of value. So we will have to take care like which type of data we are going to manipulate manually. Apart from that, it is multi-paradigm, means you can do various kinds of development, website development things related to JavaScripts. Nowadays, JavaScript is also a backbone of so many different technologies like jQuery, AngularJS, Node.js, and so many JS-like technology you may be hearing nowadays. It is functional, which will make the code even more modular. You can split the particular code in the different functions, and you can call them up on a particular event, as it is also event driven. So using JavaScript in such a way will make it wonderful, and so that we can use it even more creatively. It is interpreted by browser's JavaScript engine. Now, if the question comes like when I write a simple HTML, how it runs? Every browser has a parser which reads the HTML tags and render the text accordingly. For example, if I use h1 tag, so the text written within the h1 would be shown as the h1, as a heading 1, the biggest heading. But if I say, what about JavaScript? Means if I am writing some logical code, some programming like code, how the browser will be able to execute that? So for that, as it is mentioned, every browser has the JavaScript engine. For example, for Chrome it is V8 engine. For different browsers it's different engine. So that JavaScript engine is actually able enough to execute the code which is written in the JavaScript. And make sure while doing this, your JavaScript must be enabled for that particular browser. Only then you will be able to see the execution of your JavaScript code. Now let's move on to some more advantages of JavaScript, as it is less server interaction. Alright, means while executing, it will execute mostly on the client side, so it will be a lesser interaction with the server, and that will make the performance better. Alright, because if the code is here only and it is running on the client side, the page will not be posted back to the server again and again, and that will definitely enhance the performance of your web page. Richer interface. As in jQuery, we internally use some of the functions of JavaScript which makes the interface even more better. So you can say like it will give you a richer interface through animations or through some dynamic CSS kind of things, which will make it even more attractive and the client will feel like good while working with the web pages. Increased interactivity, that's what it means. All right, when you will create a rich interface, a more interactive interface, it will be good for the client and it will keep on coming to you. So these are some key features of JavaScript. From our next video onwards, we will start with the implementation of it. In this video of JavaScript, we are going to cover arrays. In computer science, array is basically a data structure which allows us to store multiple values in a single variable. Yes, earlier we have read that it is not possible, but the way to do this thing is actually a bit different. Here, when we will define such variable, that variable will actually behave like a collection, and in that particular collection there will be a number of memory blocks would be defined. How many memory blocks? That we will define while defining the arrays. That means when we will define the array, along with the definition, we will specify the number of blocks which we want, and after that we can start storing the value in each of those element blocks. And since, as you can see, it stores a fixed size sequential collection of elements, that means it's a fixed size. The size which you will specify by the time of creating the array, later you will not be able to change that. And if you will try to store values more than that, your program may get terminated abnormally. So make sure while defining the array, you are specifying a handsome amount of size which will not cause any overflowing. Now you have defined the elements, number of elements of an array, and after that you can start storing the values into that. Whenever you want to access a specific element block from that list of array blocks, you have to pass the index, as whenever you create an array, the index of each memory series starts with a 0 to 1, 2, 3 and so on. For example, if I have defined an array of size 5, then the lower index will start with 0, then 1, 2, 3 and 4. So whenever I want to retrieve or assign the value, I have to pass the index like that. So here you can see there are a couple of syntaxes about writing the data, how we can start writing the data or elements in an array. So here what I have done, I have taken a var fruits. Fruits is the name of my array, is equal to new array. Alright, this new is a keyword to allocate a new and fresh memory space, and into that you can pass the elements like apple, orange, mango. So it is sequential storage. Here I have not specified the size. You can also do that, like you can say new array 5 and then later you can assign the values. Here I directly stored the value. So the first element will get stored in the index 0, then 1 and 2, and very similarly I have done here as well. So both are the valid syntaxes if I talk about JavaScript. Once you have defined the array, and after that if you want to retrieve the elements in separately, alright, so what you can do, fruits like the name of the array, and then in the square brackets you can pass the index. As I said earlier, index will start with 0. So when you will say fruit 0, so it will give you apple, fruits 1 will give you orange, and fruits 2 will give you mango. So let's see practically now how we can start implementing the concept of arrays. So now in this implementation of arrays, as you can see, first of all I have defined the array of length 5 and I have used new keyword for allocating a new and fresh space for this particular array. The size of the array is 5, that means it will create 5 separate element blocks in which you can put a specific value. And to point out those particular blocks, we can pass the index. So like here you can see the index is starting from the 0, then 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in this particular index you can assign any type of value. As JavaScript is not a type safe language, you can put any type of value, but when we talk about array, basically it is the collection. So we generally make a collection of similar type. Here I have put the value of same types, and now to read that particular array, what I can do is I have just written a loop which will start from the 0 till the less than 5, that means 4. And obviously it will run, this loop will run from 0 to 4, and at every time I am running this, I am reading the ith index, which is changing from 0 to 4. So and every time I am printing the value, I am breaking the line as well. So let's see how this particular output will be looking like. So as expected, here the value from 10 to 50 is being printed. You can also do the inline initialization for the array, as here you can see right after the new array I have not passed the size, but I have used the curly braces to initialize all the values. So here I have passed 5 values. So array is always having a static memory allocation. Any particular number of values which will pass here, that will be the size of the array. For example, if I'll pass the 6th element, now the length of the array is 6. So let's execute it till the 5th index. If it is 6, length is 6, the last index would be 5. Alright, so let's refresh this one, and here you can see the output. So as we have discussed these particular syntaxes in the description also, like there are various ways of initializing an array, and anytime you want to read, you can simply pass the index after that and you can retrieve the value. When we have a number of elements all together, sorting and searching are the two very important tasks that we need to do. If we have a number of elements stored in an array and I want to sort them in a particular order, that is either ascending or descending order, I can go for the sorting concepts. And here I have written a very simple program of bubble sort in which I am sorting an array in ascending order of length 6. So here in the very first line you can see I have assigned some values in an array like 7, 2, 8, 1, 3, 4. It's random values I have put inside this, and now I want to sort it out. So before sorting, I have just printed the value right here like this before sort, and if, as you know, it's a 6 number of elements are there, so 0 to 5 this loop is running, and I'll print each and every value out there. Now as soon as I printed, I'll start doing the bubble sort. So for any successful bubble sort, I need to run a loop for n into n minus 1 times. So that is what I have done here. Like here it's n is the length of the array, that is 6. So this loop is running for the 6 times, inner loop is running for the 5 times, so overall it will be running at the 30 times. So that is the maximum number of cycles that we have to execute for a successful bubble sort. So let's see what I have done inside this particular loop. So here you can see like j is started from 0 and obviously it is less than 5. So when the first time this loop would be running, the value of j is 0 and j plus 1 is of course 1. So if the value of the earlier value, if the earlier value is greater than the later value, for example j is 0 and 1, so if ARR 0 is greater than ARR 1, of course in this particular case 7 is greater than 2. So what I want is I'll have to swap these two values so that 2 will come before the 7. Alright, that will not make it a complete sort, but of course the two values will be sorted because it is the ascending order, so any smaller value have to come before the greater value. So that is what I have done inside this. Like these 3 lines are simply swapping the values of the 0th and 1th index. So the index or the value of 1th index will be here in the 0th index, and the 7 which is at 0th index will come to the 1st index. So similarly this loop will go for this 5 times, means 0 to 4 index would be covered, And of course, as you can see here in the logic, I am putting j plus 1. So the last index is 5. When j is 4, so what it will be saying, if ARR 4 is greater than ARR 5, that means these two values will be compared, and if required the swapping will take place, but only in one cycle. The complete sorting will not be done. So to iterate this particular concept again and again, I have placed it inside this another loop, and it will make it show like in 30 cycles this loop will be sorted completely, and after that I have printed the loop again in the very same way I have done it earlier. So let's execute, and here you can see the output. Like initially it was like 7 2 8 1 3 4, and later it's 1 2 3 4 7 8. Alright, if you want to sort it to the descending order, you can simply replace the greater than symbol to the less than. Now the swapping will be done when the smaller value is before the larger value. So now you can see this whole array is being converted into the descending order sorted. In this video of JavaScript, we will begin with the variables. As in the programming and even in the scripting of JavaScript, variables are something which can store a single value at a time temporarily. Temporarily means the value can be changed later during the execution if required. As earlier we have already discussed in the features of JavaScript, like it is not a type safe language, so whenever you will be defining any variable, it will not be having any specific data type. So we will use a var, that is variant keyword, whenever we will go for any variable declaration, and after that we can assign any type of value. But since we want to be logical, we will not try to do so and will stick to a single data type of value. Now whenever you will start working with the variables, they would be having two scopes, either local or global, but practically we will do that as soon as we will start working with the functions. So if any variable is defined inside a function, that is a local variable, and if you define any variable out of the functions, it will be a global variable, means it can be accessed inside any functions you are making. But initially it is nothing like that, because we are not going to implement any functions. So let's see practically how can we start working with the variables in JavaScript. So now in order to declare the variable, here we will use the var keyword, and after that you will name the identifier. So like here, if I want to store some name, I will name the variable, that is the name, and then if you want you can assign the value right here, or you can do it later. So if I want to assign the value, what I'll do, I'll put a double quotes, since here I want to store the string type of data. As we already discussed that JavaScript is not a type safe language, it is loosely typed language, so you don't have to specify a specific data type right here. Just by specifying the var keyword, you can define a variable, and after that you can assign any type of value into it. Let's say here I assign a value. Similarly, if I want to assign some other things like age, which is a numeric value, I can do that as well. And similarly, you can assign any type of value like the same. For example, if you want to assign some decimal numbers also, you can do that in the very same way, like this. And similarly, whenever you want to print the data, you will use the same method, that is document.write, which we have already used, either document.write or document.writeln. So make sure that whenever you are printing the value of an identifier, you will not put them in the quotation, and you will keep them like this. But if you want to put anything before that, you can simply put it in double quotes like name, and then a concatenation symbol, that is the plus. So let's save this one and see the output in the browser. So as here you can see, similarly if I want to do some more things, I can do that in a very simple way. If I will run this, you will see all the things in the same line like this. But if you want to break the line, as we know, we use the BR in the HTML. So I will simply concatenate that right after each message like this. And again in age, and if I'll do anything after salary, so that will again come in the next line. So now this is the output we were looking for. So similarly like this, you can start creating the variables and can assign the values as per your requirement. So far in the JavaScript, whichever code we have written having a linear execution, means from the line 1 to the last line it kept on executing. But if I want to execute few things on a particular condition only, I can go for the conditional statements, as these condition statements will first compare the conditions using the variables and the operators which we have already covered, and if the condition is satisfied, then it will do the particular task. So here in JavaScript we have a couple of conditional statements such as the if else and switch, where if else will be used by in JavaScript code like if, after then we can specify a condition, and if the condition is not satisfied we can pass the else statement. And secondly, we have a switch statement which will be doing a short circuiting like thing, means a direct execution as soon as the condition is matched. But in this video only we will just cover the introduction of it. In our next video onwards we will start with the implementation of if and switch statement separately. Now in the conditional statements, let's talk about the if else statement. As I already discussed in the previous video, it is used to pass some conditions, that is, after the if keyword I can pass any condition using the logical or comparison operator, and if the condition is not satisfied then we can go for the else. But else is optional, so you are not forced to add the else keyword right after the if. So this is how the execution will take place. Like when the code flow will be happening, there will be a condition carried by the if keyword. If the condition is true, then only we will execute the conditional code. If it is false, we will terminate that particular code, means that particular code will not get executed. You can also change the multiple conditions using the else if, means if the first condition is false, you can proceed with the second condition, and the second condition will with else if will only be compared when the first condition is false. So let's see practically how can we implement this else if and if statements all together. So here we are implementing the if statement. What we are doing here is we will be taking the marks of any three subjects from a student, and after that I'll sum them up and will calculate the percentage. On the basis of the percentage, I will assign them a grade, like whether it's grade A, B, C or D. So what I'm doing here is using the prompt box, I'm taking all the three marks. Now whenever you will enter something in the prompt box, it will be treated as the string. So here whenever you will use the plus operator for adding the things, it will actually be concatenated and you will not get the desired result. So in order to make them treated like the integer, what I have done is I have used the method called or function called parse int. So in this parse int, what it will do, it will convert the type to the integer. So now when I will add this when I will use this plus symbol, it will actually add them rather than concatenating. So once I get the total, I have applied a very simple formula for calculating the percentage, and here I am considering the maximum marks as 50. So whatever the percentage is there, I will print that, and after that on the basis of that percentage I will pass the conditions in order to get the grades. Now here you can see it is if, and right after this it's a parenthesis inside which I will pass a statement which will return a boolean value. So here I am using this comparison operator, and we have already discussed about it. Like whenever you will be using the comparison operator, it will return you a boolean. So if this particular condition is true, I will get an alert box with the thing grade A. Now if this condition is incorrect, so it actually depends what you have written after that. For example, if I don't have these line of codes, so if the percentage is not greater than 80, nothing is going to happen. If it is greater than or equal to 80, I will get a message grade A. But it's all depends on the situation and your requirement, like what and how you want to do in a condition. Means if this condition is incorrect and I don't want to do anything in the condition when the condition is incorrect, so I will leave the program like that. But if I want to do something, if this condition is incorrect, or if I want to check some more conditions, if this condition is false, then I can go for all these things. Like here you can see it is not a if, but it is else if. Means this condition will be checked only when the previous condition is false. If this is true, this will never be compared. Similarly, if this condition is returning true, then we will not go to all these statements. This condition will only be checked when this will return a false, and so on. And similarly, when all the conditions are false, only then the control will come in the else part. So this is a chaining thing, right? You can see whenever I'm using the else if, that means each and every condition is changed, and it will come, the control will come inside them only when the previous conditions are false. So for example, if I have entered something and the percentage is having 85, so 85 is greater than 80, 85 is greater than 60 also, 85 is greater than 40 also. But as I said, if this particular condition is true, the control will never come in these conditions. So doesn't matter whether they will return true or false, nothing is going to happen. So let's save the program and see the output in the browser. So let's refresh this. Here I'll enter the marks. So as I said, like I'm taking the marks out of 50. So I entered 45, 46, 47. They are pretty good marks. So obviously the percentage is good. That is 92. And here I'll get grade A. Similarly, if I'll enter some marks like 34, 32, 37. So the percentage is something 68. So it will get grade B. And similarly, if the marks are quite low, like 14, 24 and 12, so it's 33%, it's grade D. Alright, so on that particular basis you can actually calculate the things and can pass the conditions using the if statement. Apart from that, you can use any operator which we have covered earlier, which are returning a boolean value. So this is a very basic implementation of if statement.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the iteration statements, normally called as loops. In the basic programming, it is a very obvious situation, like we come across a thing where we need to execute some set of statements continuously multiple times, probably with the different values. For example, if I want to find the even numbers from 1 to 100, what I need to do is I will have to write the code for checking the even or odd again and again. But rather than writing the same code again and again, I can put this particular code inside a loop which will provide various values, means different values from 1 to 100 continuously. And inside the loop we will check the condition. If the number is even, we will print that. So such things can be done by the iteration statements, as this is a statement which allows the execution of a particular set of block code multiple times or several times. Whenever you will write a loop, you will have to pass a condition, so that until and unless that particular condition is true, the loop will keep on executing, and as soon as it is false, the loop will get terminated. For example, as I said,
I want to find all the even numbers from 1 to 100. So it is a condition like the number or the value of I of whichever variable I am using, that should be less than or equal to 100. As soon as the value will exceed from the 100, the loop must get terminated. So this is what it's written here, keeps on executing until a given condition is true. So whenever you will start writing these control statements, whether it is the conditional statements or iterational statements, logically as per your requirement, you can make them nested to any level. Here is the basic idea how the iteration statements or loop get executed. So here, this is the control flow. There must be a condition. If the condition is true, then we will execute the conditional code and the control will again come to this condition. So unless and until this condition is returning true, this loop will keep on executing. As soon as the condition is false, it will get terminated. If there is any logical error, you may write an infinite loop which will not be able to come out of this iteration. Logically, you can classify the loops in three different types, that is for, while and do while, which we will be discussing in our later videos practically as well. But all these loops would be having the similar thing which we discussed right now, that it will allow the set of statements to get executed iteratively multiple times. So in our next video onwards, we'll start with the implementation of them. Now let's get started with the for loop. As in the previous videos, we have already discussed the basic functionality and the basic feature of the iteration statements, that is, it will keep on executing unless and until a given condition is true. So the same feature will be followed by the for loop as well. But what's the speciality? The speciality is for loop should be used when the number of iterations are known. For example, if I want to find the even numbers from 1 to 100, I know that I need to execute the loop from 1 to 100. In this particular case, I can go for this for loop. But whatever I am saying here is just the ideal things. But if you know how to play with the loops, and that will come with the practice of course, you can replace any loop with any other loop anytime in your programming. Alright, so let's first get through with this for loop. As here you can see the syntax of it. Inside this for, you can see it is being classified into three different parts. That is, first is the initialization, second is the condition, and third one is the increment. So whenever you will begin this particular loop, as I said, the number of iterations should be known. So here I will initialize the value. Let's say I will initialize the variable I with 1. That is the initial thing. Condition means the finishing point, when you want your loop to be terminated. That condition will come here. So here I will write something like I is less than or equal to 100, means that is the condition. Unless and until the I value is less than or equal to 100, it will keep on executing. And increment, since I is 1 and it needs to go till 100, I need to keep on incrementing the value. I have to increase the value every time I am running this loop. So for that, it is increment. You can also take it in a reverse way, like I started with 100, I need to drag it till 0 or 1, and for that I will decrease the value. So it's all conditional as per your requirement, and inside this you will write the code. So this is how you can write a for loop. Now how it will execute. First of all, the initialization thing will execute. It will initialize a particular variable with any particular given value. Before entering to the body of the for loop, it will check the condition. If the condition is true, only then this code block will get executed. If the condition is false in the very first time, it will not execute at all. Alright, so the condition, if it is true, then the code block will execute, and then its increment. Increment means after executing the complete body, it will again go to this particular section where the increment will be taking place. Now after increment, again before entering into the body, it will check the
conditions. All right, so this thing will keep on executing unless and until the condition is true, and as soon as it is false, the code will get terminated or the loop will get terminated. All right, so let's execute this particular loop practically.
So in this implementation, you can see I have written a for loop in which there are three parts as I discussed earlier. Here it's the initialization part in which I am initializing the value of I with 1. After that, it's a condition, means I want this loop should keep on executing itself unless and until this condition is true. So unless and until the value of I is either lesser or equal to 10, I want this loop to be executed. And how the value of I will reach from 1 to 10? I'll have to make the incrementation, and so for that, here is the I++. This ++ operator will be increasing the value of I every time with 1. So what will happen basically, at the very first time when the control will come in this loop, this will be initialized with 1, and then the value of I will be compared with this condition. If this condition is satisfied, only then the control will come inside the loop body and these set of statements will get executed, where I am just printing the value of I along with the breaking the line. Once all the statement of this loop body will execute, then the control will go to the increment part and it will increase the value of I with 1, means the 1 will become 2, and again before entering the loop we will check the condition, and this process will keep on going unless and until there is a condition satisfaction. As soon as the condition will be false, this loop will get terminated. So let's see the output of this program. As here you can see, I is equal to 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So as I said in the description as well, like we will use this for loop when we know like the condition, the number of executions are known. So here I am starting it from 1, I am taking it till 10. So it's obviously sure like I want this loop to execute from 1 to 10. If I want to make the increment more than 1, like I++ is just an increment statement, you can use any increment statement what you want. So here what I'll do is I say I plus equals to 2. That means here I'm incrementing the value of I with 2. So now when I will refresh it, you see I is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on. Now let's take one more example, like I want all the even numbers from 1 to 100 and I want the sum of all those even numbers. So what I'll do is I starts with 1, I is executing till I is less than or equal to 100. I will just make an increment by 1 only, so I++. And now inside, since this is the statement, you can actually use any statement inside this. So I will inject the if statement inside and I'll say I mod 2 is equal to 0. If the modulus of value of I with 2 will be 0, modulus means the remainder. So if you will divide any number with 2 and the remainder is 0, I will say that is the even number. So what I'll do is I'll simply put these statements inside the if statement. Alright, so I'll just pass the delimiters like that. Alright, okay, so it will print all the even numbers, something like this, like here you can see 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on. Now if you want to add all those numbers, so for that what I'm doing is I'm just taking one more variable for summing them up and I will initialize them all with 0. So what will happen here, whenever any prime number, any even number will be there, so I'll simply say sum is equal to sum plus I. That means whatever value is there in the I will add them up in the current value of sum and then I will update the new value of sum as well. For example, sum is 0. Now if I is coming inside this for the first time, the value of I would be 2. So the current value of sum is 0, 0 plus 2 is 2. So that 2 will be assigned to the sum. The value of sum also becomes 2. Now the next time when the control will come inside this condition, the value of I would be 4. So what will happen? Here it will do current value of sum is 2 and I is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6, and now the value of sum will become 6. So likewise it will keep on executing till the value is of this I is 100. Now outside this loop, what I can do, I can simply print the value of sum with the message like total and then concatenate. And before executing, let's remove this line break also. So now let's see the output, and here you can see it's 2550. That's the sum of all the even numbers from 1 to 100. Similarly, we can also find the factorials like that. So let me take a number for that. For example, I will take it num is equal to parse int, and here I'll use the prompt box, enter a number, like that. Alright, and now what I'll do, I'll just start the execution from 1 till that particular number. Alright, and in factorial what we have to do, we have to multiply the numbers. So I'll have to do the product. So I will start the product with 1, because if you will multiply with 0, every number will become a 0. So parse int prompt and then enter a number. So here I am taking a number in this num. So what I'll do is I will start it from 1. You can also start with 2 also, because if you multiply anything with 1, it will remain the same. So it's all up to you. And now I'll just remove this condition, and inside this what I'll do, I'll say product is equal to product into num. Alright, I'll have to pass I here. Alright, because num is the maximum limit. So let's execute this, and here now you will get the correct answer. Like I entered 5 and it is coming 5 into 5 is 120. The factorial of 5 is 120. Like what it is doing, 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Similarly, if you will do it for 6, it's 720. Alright, so this is how you can plan of using this for loop, in which there will be a variable which will be taking a value from a starting point to the ending point, and every time when I'm using this for loop, I know the exact number of executions.
Now let's get started with the while loop. Since it is also a loop, would be having all the common features like any other loop, but the question is, what is the difference? As in the for loop, we should know the number of iterations. It is not that particular in case of while loop. So basically we will use the while loop when a program is having its own condition and I want to execute a loop until that condition is true. For example, if I want to walk from my office to my home, I don't know how many steps exactly I need to take, but I will keep on walking unless and until I reach my destination, my home. So the similar situation will occur with the while loop also, where the exact number of execution will not be known, but we will execute this loop till a particular condition. For example, if I want to find the 100 prime numbers starting from 1, so I exactly don't know which is the 100th prime number. Alright, so in such situations I can go for the while loop. But as I said earlier in the previous video, if you are very comfortable with the loops, anytime you can replace one loop with the another. It is just the ideal statements I'm talking about. So here's the syntax, like a while keyword right after a condition which must be returning a boolean, and then a conditional code.
So this is how a very simple syntax, alright. You can write this code and how it will execute. Let's see that. So first of all, the condition will be checked. If it is true, code block, and so it will keep on executing. As soon as the condition is false, the loop will get terminated. But it is something more than that. Let's see practically and do that.
Here in the implementation of while loop, I have written a program in which I am counting the digits of a number. So for the number, I am taking the user input using the prompt box, and whatever will come, I'll convert it to the integer using this parse int method. For counting, I have taken a counter variable which is initialized with 0, and here it's a condition like while num is greater than 0. I am not passing any number of iterations here in this program. So let's see how this program will work like here. So let's say in the user input I entered a 4-digit number like 5432, and obviously the counter is initialized with a 0. Now when this condition will be checked, like 5432 is greater than 0, obviously it is greater than 0, so it will come inside, the control will come inside, and what it will do, it will divide the number with 10. So when you will divide the 5432 with 10, it will become 543.2. Alright, let's pass a comment. Alright, now so 543.2, and actually I don't want to take this decimal number. That's why what I have done, I have used the math.trunc method, which will truncate the number to the lower digit to the 0th decimal places. So it will become 543, and now the increment will be done in the counter. It will become 1 from 0. Now this loop will run again. So 543 is the current value of num, which is still greater than 0. Again it will come inside and will divide with 0, will truncate the decimal part, and then it will become 54. It will become 2. Next time when this condition will be checked, this is still greater than 0, control will come inside, and it will become 5.4, which will truncate it by 5, and the counter is again working fine. Now the next time it will do this particular thing, 5 is divided by 10, so it will become 0.5, and again when it will be truncated, it will become a 0, and the counter will be incremented by 1, and it will become 4. Now when this condition will be checked, so num is having 0 now, so 0 is not greater than 0, so this loop will be terminated, and outside I am printing the value like digits is the value of count, and count is having 4 in this situation. Alright, so let's execute this program and see how the output is looking like. So here let's say I am entering 6-digit number. Alright, so when I will execute it, it's showing 6. Alright, if I enter 4-digit number, it's saying 4. So this is all about the while loop. So as I said in the description also, we don't know how many times a loop is going to execute. This is a loop, and as per the requirement, it is changing the number of cycles. If I'm entering a 6-digit number, the same loop is running for 6 times. If I'll enter a 2-digit number or 1-digit number, it will execute it to that number of time. So this is all about the syntax and the concept of while loop.
Now let's begin with the do while loop. Do while loop is actually having something different than any other loop we have learned. Do while loop basically checks the condition after the loop execution. That means at least the loop will get executed once, and after the one execution it will check the condition. If it is true, it will execute it again, otherwise it will get terminated. So as you can see here, it's do conditional code, and after the conditional code in the while you can add the condition. Alright, and that must be terminated with the semicolon also. Alright, that is mandatory. So here is the code block, and then a condition. If false, it will get terminated. If true, it will keep on executing. So as it is written, do while loop is guaranteed to execute at least one time. Alright, so because the reason is the condition is being checked after first execution.
Basically, you can plan working with the do while loop whenever you want to execute the loop on the basis of user interaction. For example, if you are taking some user input, suppose I am writing a ATM code, a user at least has to enter the pin number once. If it enters correct, I don't have to ask again, but if it is entering the incorrect pin number, I will have to ask again. But at least the loop should be executing once. So such loops can be planned using the do while loop. And now let's see practically how can we write a basic code using do while.
So here it's an implementation of a do while loop. As I said earlier, like do while loop will be used when we want to execute a loop as per the user's interaction. So what I want here I am taking a pin number from the user, and 3456 I have considered is the correct pin which I am seeking from the user. So unless and until he will enter this particular pin, I'll keep on asking the pin number. But if the number of attempts, the count of number of attempts is greater than 3, then I will not ask it again. Means maximum 3 attempts will be given to the user. If in either of those 3 attempts user entered the correct pin, I will stop asking him and I will welcome him with the welcome message. If all the 3 attempts he has entered is invalid, then I'll give a message account logged. So for doing that, what I have done here is the actual pin, a pin variable in which I'll ask the user input, and the counter. Now inside this do, as here you can see the syntax, after do it's the delimiters. Inside this you can put all the logical code in which I'm asking for the pin number, and every time I'm asking, I'm incrementing the counter by 1. Now here you can see, unless and until the pin is not same and the counter is less than 3, means the first time it is 0, then when the first time this loop will execute, the counter will become 1, then 2 and 3. So by the third implementation, here you can see this condition will be false, and here as you can see it's an AND operator. If any one of the condition is false, then this loop will be terminated. So let's see how this output will look like here. So like here I'm saying enter your pin, let's enter 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and last time also 1 2 3 4. All the 3 attempts I entered invalid, so I got a message account logged. If I will enter the correct in the third attempt, like let's say 3 4 5 6, it will give a message welcome user, and if in the first attempt only I give the message, it will say welcome user, it will not ask again. So this is how you can work with the do while loop, in which the first time the execution will be there for the show, and as per the user interaction on the first time we will plan like whether we should go for this loop again or not. So this is the very basic implementation of do while loop.
Now we are going to cover few more keywords and statements which may control the execution of a loop. So far we have covered the for, while and do while loop, and in all these 3 loops we have seen like there is a condition, and as soon as the condition is false we terminate the loop. But if apart from that you want to do some manipulations in the execution of a loop, you can go for the loop control statements such as break and continue. You have already seen the usage of break keyword in the switch, where after each case and default we have applied this break keyword in order to terminate the switch statement. Very similarly, we will be using this break keyword to terminate the loops as well, as this is the condition. When this condition is false, the loop will get terminated. But apart from that, if any time during the execution of the loop, if there is a break statement that get executed, it will also terminate the execution of a loop, whether the condition is still true or false. Maybe the break would be having its own condition that you can pass inside the loop. So this break either will terminate the switch statement, which we have already seen, and it can also terminate the loops, now which we'll see in this execution. But before that, let's talk about continue as well. as break terminates the execution of a loop while continue only skips a particular cycle. Means this is the loop which is getting continuously executed, but meanwhile if there is any continuous statement is there, it will skip the execution of all the conditional code of that loop. So let's see practically how can we implement the break and continue statements.
So in this program I have written a for loop which is starting from 1 and will run till 10. So if I'll execute this particular loop, obviously I'll get the numbers printed from 1 to 10. So let's check it out first. So here in the browser I'll open this particular file and you can see, alright, 1 to 10. Let me do the line break as well along with that. So br along with this. Alright, let's refresh. Alright, so this is my desired output, but if I will introduce any loop control statement in that, so obviously the output will be differ. So let's execute that, and here I'll pass a condition like if I is equal to 5, then I'll say break. Alright, so here as I discussed what this break statement will do, it will terminate the loop. So when I will become 5, the loop will be terminated and obviously the execution will be stopped out there itself. So if I'll execute, you see, even though I have written the loop from 1 to 10, but since I have introduced the break statement when I was equal to 5, this particular output is looking like this, means it will just running for 4 times, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is about the break, and the similar thing it was doing at the time we introduced this break statement in this switch, where when any of the case was satisfied, the execution was terminated because of this break statement, and none of the case was checked inside that switch again. But if apart from this break I'll introduce a continue statement, so what this will do, it will just skip the cycle, means I'm running this loop from 1 to 10. So if I'll say I is equal to 5, then continue, so that means this loop means this particular statement will be skipped when I was equal to 5. So this is how the output will look like. So as you can see, 1 2 3 4 6 7 8 9 10, 5 got skipped. Similarly, if you will add multiple conditions out here like I is equal to 7, so 7 is also skipped. So this is how you can use the break and continue statement in order to control the execution of any loops that we have covered, that is for, while and do while.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the switch statement. As in the previous video, we noticed if we are passing multiple conditions using if statement, each condition is being checked one by one only if the previous conditions were false. But if I'll talk about the switch statement, here the things are quite different, as initially we will pass any expression or a variable, and that will be having that will return a particular type of value, and on the basis of that value type I will add the multiple cases. Whichever is the appropriate case is there in the switch statement, that particular case statement will get executed. As here you can see, it is not coming one by one, it will directly come onto that respective case. But if none of the case is satisfying the switch, then the control will come to the default block. So let's see practically how can we start writing this switch statement.
So in this particular program, what I'm doing is I'm taking a single character from the user and I'm comparing whether that is a vowel or a consonant. So for doing that, first of all I'm taking a user input using the prompt box, and we'll make sure like whenever we'll enter something, it will just be a single character, and I'm storing that in a variable called ch. So after taking the value, I'm passing this ch in this switch argument, so that whenever this switch statement will be executing, only the value of this particular expression or variable will be compared. Apart from this switch, ch, we can also pass an expression, maybe using any operators. But here I'm just passing the single value, but it must be evaluating a value. So here what you can see is I'm just checking it with the case keyword. So I'm checking whether the value inside the switch is A or E or I or O or U. So whichever value would be there in this switch variable, the ch variable, that particular statement will get printed. For example, if I'll enter O, so O is vowel will be printed. But as I said earlier, whenever this execution will take place, the line by line case checking will not be happening, but the control will directly fall into this particular case which is getting satisfied with the value stored by this variable. So let's execute first and see how this output is running like. So yep, here is the file. So here I'm entering a value, let's say O, and here you can see the message O is vowel. If I'll enter anything apart from A, E, I, O, U, you can see the message special character or consonant. But where does it comes from? It is coming basically from the default. Like in the if statement, when all the conditions are false, at last the else statement gets executed. Similarly, in the switch, when all the cases are false, finally the control will fall in the default statement. As I said, it is not getting executed line by line, so most of the time we put the default in the last, but basically syntactically you can put it in any particular position. So let's execute it again. I'll refresh it and I'll pass U. So again you see U is vowel is printed. So basically what's the reason? If I have placed default before the case U, then if it is executing line by line, then this default statement must be printed. But as I said, like whichever case is particularly getting satisfied with this particular value evaluated from this variable or expression, that case will be printed from here. So that is why we can see the output is still fine even if we have placed the default before the case. If you have multiple cases on which you want to execute the same set of statement, you can shorthandly write the switch statement like this. As here you can see I have placed all the cases like case A, E, I, O and U all together, and after that here I am giving a common definition, and still I am using this break keyword in order to terminate the particular case. So here this ch means whichever value you will be entering. If it is a part in this list like A, E, I, O, U, then that particular value will be printed along with is vowel message. So when I'll re-execute this, you can see still it is working fine, like E is vowel, then if I'll enter I is vowel. Alright, and if I'll enter anything else, then special character or consonant. So this is how we have written this program of switch, and this is how it executes. So you can basically use this switch statement whenever you are making some menu like options in your program or in any interface where you want to put the multiple matchings using the case.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to start the operators. As so far in the JavaScript implementation, we have seen like how can we define a variable and can set a value either at compilation time, that is while writing the code, or at runtime, that is by using the prompt box. But once the value is assigned, if I want to do some operations such as I want to add a couple of numbers or I want to compare a couple of numbers whether which one is greater or smaller, I can do that all by using the operators. As operator is nothing but a symbol which tells the system that which particular task need to be performed in that particular data on which you are applying the operator. So the operator is the symbol, and the things on which the operator would be applied will be called the operand. For example,
if there are a couple of variables where a and where b, and we are saying like a plus b, so plus is the operator and a and b are the operands on which the operator is being applied. In JavaScript, we have a vast list of the operators, and using individual operators we can perform the specific tasks. So on the basis of the operands, these operators can be classified as the unary operator, means a single operand operator, binary operator means the operator having two operands, or ternary operator means the operators having three operands. But functionally we can classify into these categories, such as the assignment operator. We have already seen the assignment operator, that is the equals to symbol, where we have assigned the value to a particular variable, like where a is equal to 2. So this equals to variable or equals to operator will assign the value 2 to the variable a. Apart from that, we do have the arithmetic operator, comparison operator, logical operator, and again ternary operator. So let's have a look about these operators individually. As in arithmetic operators, you can see like plus, minus, multiplication, that is for asterisk, slash, forward slash for division, and a percentage symbol for the modulus. Means if you want to add two numbers, you want to subtract, you want to multiply, you divide two numbers. For example, you say 5 divided by 2. So what will happen? In the quotient it will be 2, in the remainder it will be 1. So the slash will take the quotient part, means the division operator will take the quotient part, while the modular symbol will take the remainder part. So both are related to the division only. One is dealing with the quotient, another one is dealing with the remainder. But rather than this discussing here, let's see all of these things practically.
So for getting started with the arithmetic operators, I will take a couple of variables like num1, I'll assign some value such as 40, and num2, in which I will assign again some value like 10. Now, as we have already discussed about the arithmetic operators like plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulus, so let's do them very quickly. I am not taking any variable, I am just printing the results directly. You can actually take a variable and can assign some value into that if you want to reuse that value further. So what I do here is num1 plus num2, and here I am just adding these two numbers. Very similarly, I'll do some more tasks like subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and finding the modulus. So before proceeding, let's break the line for each like this, and let's see the output now. So here 40 plus 10 is 50, 40 minus 10 is 30, 40 multiplied by 10 is 400. When you will divide 40 with 10, in quotient you will get 4, and in remainder it's 0. So like this, all the operators are working perfectly. Now let's do it in another ways, like for example, if I say var result is equal to num1 plus num2, so the result will be assigned to the result variable, alright, and you can now print that particular value like this, and it will work like same. But if you want to do some shorthand operation like things, you can do that as well. But for that, let's take some other scenario. Like here, what I'm doing is I'm just incrementing the value of num1 to an extent. For example, num1 is equal to num1 plus 5. What it will do? It will simply add the 5 in the current value of num1, which is 40, and will change the current value, that is the new value, to 45. So now if I will print the value of num1, you will get 45. But for the same thing, I can actually write it like this also, that is plus equals to.
that means the same and will give you exact same output like this. It's again giving you 45. Now let's talk about the operator precedence. So for that, what I'll do, I'll just take one more variable called result, and now what we'll do is 10 plus 5 into 20. So now when I will print the value of result, what it will do is, first of all, since the multiplication precedence is higher than the plus, so first of all 5 will get multiplied to the 20, which will result you 100, and then this 100 would be added to the 10, which will give you 110 in the output. But if you want to change the precedence, you can put them in the parentheses, so the precedence of parentheses is always higher. So now this 10 plus 5 would be done, that is the 15, and then that 15 would be multiplied to 20, which will give you 300 like this. Alright, so this is about the operator precedence. Now let's change the value of the variables of numeric types using the single operators or the unary operators, that is plus plus or minus minus. So here, as we have already discussed, like whenever you will use this plus plus operator, it will actually make the increment by 1. So now when I'll refresh, you can see it's 11, and they come into two varieties. This is the post increment, and if you'll put the plus plus before, it will be a pre-increment. Let's talk about the difference. Since here I have used plus plus num, that means it is pre-increment and the increment will be done before the value is getting assigned to the result. So before the assignment, the increment would be done, that is num will become 11, and then that 11 will be assigned to result. So in this particular case, both the values would be having 11. Let me break the line to get the clear output, right, like this. But in case if I'll go for the post increment, that will give you a different result. In this particular case, since it is the post increment, that means the assignment would be done before the increment. So by the time the value of num would be assigned to the result would be having 10, and after this assignment the value of num would be incrementing, so the num will have the 11. So when you will print the value of result, it will give you a 10, and while num will give you 11. Let's check it out. The same result which I was talking about. And very similarly, you can do it for the minus minus operator as well, as the way of using the pre and post increment or decrement is going to be very same.
Now let's talk about the logical operators. Suppose you have multiple conditions to compare and you want to merge them up. So here we have two binary logical operators such as the and or. If you have two conditions and you want to check like both conditions must be satisfied, only then I want to do some operation. For example, if I'm doing the login thing, so I want the username and password both must be same in order to do the login. So for that I will go for the AND operator. But if you are okay with any of the condition should be satisfied, then you can go for the OR operator. But if you want to just reverse the condition, that is if you want to make true to false and false to true, we can go for the logical NOT operator, which is a unary logical operator. So let's see practically how can we start working with the logical operators now.
Now here in this video, along with the logical operators, we are also implementing the ternary operator. So first of all, let's have a look in the ternary operator. So what I have done here, this question mark and this colon both are comprising the ternary operator. Ternary operator, which means the operator having three operands. So the first operand is the complete condition, which will return you a Boolean value, that is either true or false. If the result is true, then the second operand, or if the result is false, then the third operand is returned. So basically in this particular operator, the first operator is evaluated, the first operand is evaluated, and according to that the second or third operand will be returned to this particular variable. So what I'm doing here, I have taken a couple of variables for you, taking the user ID and password, and I have used the prompt box for that. So as soon as user will enter, I will check like whether user ID and password, if both the conditions are true. So as per the AND operator, it will return you a true when both of the conditions are true. So as whenever we do the login, the username and password both must match in order to get a successful login result. So if both are correct, so this AND operator will return you the true, and in that case I will assign welcome in the message. And similarly, if any of these will be incorrect, so this AND operator will return you a false, resulting to which the invalid user string will be assigned to the message variable. So let's run it and see the output. So now it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything incorrect, as you were saying earlier as well, so it will say invalid user. So that's what I discussed, like when each of the condition is false, then it will return you a false. Now what if I want to go for the OR operator? So let's change the program to a bit. So in this program what I have done is I am taking a username in this program using the prompt box, and after that I am comparing, means when you use the OR operator, obviously this single variable cannot have both the values at a time. So surely only one condition is going to return a true while other will return a false, or maybe both conditions will be false. But even if a single condition is returning you a true, this OR operator will just return you that true, and accordingly I will be getting welcome or invalid user. So let's save it and run it. So now what I'll do, I'll enter, it's saying welcome, again I'll refresh, it's saying welcome, but if I'll enter anything apart from that, you see it's invalid user. Alright, so this is what I can do using this OR operator. But if I'll talk about the NOT operator, it is a simple unary operator, like I assigned this NOT operator right here. So it is going to behave just reverse. So let's see how it's going to behave now. So now when I'll enter, it will say invalid. Apart from that, if I'll enter anything, it's going to say welcome. That's what I said. This NOT operator will simply return the true to false and false to true. It will simply reverse the result of the condition.
Now let's have a look on the comparison operators. We have these 6 operators for comparing the value, such as the double equals to, single equals to is the assignment operator, while double equals to is the comparison operator, which compares the whether two values are equal or not. If the values are equal, it will return a true, otherwise false, and very opposite is a not equals to operator. Greater than, when you want to compare the greater value, lesser than when you want to compare the lesser value, and very similarly greater than equals to, less than equals to. It will compare the greater as well as the equality. So all these operators will compare two values and will always return a boolean, either true or false, on the basis of the comparison made. So let's see practically how can we start implementation of these operators.
Now for implementing the comparison operator, what I have done, I have simply taken a variable and using the assignment operator I have assigned a value called 100. It's a fixed value, and now I have used all the comparison operator, that is double equals to for comparing the equality, not equals to, greater than equal to, less than equal to, greater than, and less than. So when I'll say that num1, which is currently 100, is equal to 10, so obviously it will give you a false. Though JavaScript is not a type safe language, but whenever you will compare a condition, it will return a boolean data, either true or false, and in this particular case it will give you a false. But in the next statement, when you will say that num1, which is 100, is not equal to 10, so obviously 100 is not equal to 10. In this particular case it will give you a true. As we know, 100 is greater than 10, so when you will say num1 is greater than or equals to, so in this particular case, if the value of num1 is either equals to or greater than 10, so the result will be true. Since it is greater, it is going to return you a true. But since 100 is not less than 10, so it will give you a false. Similarly, the same will happen in these cases, like 100 is greater than 10, so a true, and 100 is not lesser than 10, so it is a false. Basically, the difference between the greater than and greater than equals to is like it will give you a false even though the num1 and 10 both are having the same value. That is, if I'll make it to 10 and 10 is greater than 10, will give you a false. But if I'll say 10 is greater than or equal to 10, so since it is equal to, it will give you a true. Let's check out the output now, since we should get the false, true, true, false, true, false. So let's refresh this, and false, true, true, false, true, false. The same output which we predicted is here.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to begin a very important concept called functions. As in the introduction, we have noticed like JavaScript is functional, and now we are going to implement that thing. So what is a function? Basically, whenever I am talking about a function, it will contain a set of statements which perform a specific task. Specific task means, for example, I want to take the student list, want to take some marks, want to calculate the total percentage, want to find the grades. So I can do each individual thing in a separate task, so that whatever the code I will be writing will become modular. Let's take a real life example. When I am go to an ATM to withdraw some cash, what happens is I will swipe my card. Maybe I am just going to check my balance. So just checking balance is what? Is a method. Whenever I'll do that, it will be called, and the amount which I have in my account will be told. But when I'll go to withdraw some amount, even though internally it will find like how much amount I have internally in my account, so that if I will try to withdraw more than that available amount, it will not allow me to do. Alright, so that is what happens with the functions also. Whenever I want to write a logical program, I can split each and individual task in a separate function, so that whenever I want, I will call that particular function. Alright, if you have just defined the function and you are not calling it, it will not be executed. So make sure whenever you are writing a function, you will have to call it whenever you want to make it executed. Now, once you have written the function, you may call it once, you may call it twice, or any time you want. In short, I can say it provides you reusability. It also makes your code modular. Modular means your code is now clear, and individual function, and each function is doing a separate task. So you can easily split your overall functionality in the small modules. Now, let's again take the example of ATM. That ATM machine is having some of the functionality, but I have to swipe a card which tells from which account it has to do the processing. Means after swiping my card, if I withdraw some amount, the amount will be deducted from my account only, not from any others. So even if I have a predefined functionality, I may come across a situation like I want to pass some value, so that the functionality will be happening in that given value only. So whenever I want to pass a value, I can pass it through the parameters. So while defining the function, you will notice when I'll define that, I can pass some functions and parameters as well, so that whenever I want to supply some value from the calling environment means when I'm invoking that. So if I want to pass some specific value, I can do that. For example, if I am defining a function which is adding two number 2 plus 4, so it will always give me 6. Alright, but if I allow parameters to should be there in the function, so what can I do? Every time when I call that function, I can pass a different value. So in this particular case, my function will be more effective and will be able to give me a better result. Now, if it's about the result, you may just print it and it will be end it all. But if you want to return that particular value to some other function, so you can do that as well using the return keyword. So let's see practically how can we start writing a basic function in JavaScript, and then we'll see how can we pass the parameters, and then we will see how can we return the value from the parameter.
Now in this implementation of functions, I have placed the script tag inside the head section. As you can see, so far I was putting the script tag in the body because anytime when this page would be loaded, the code inside the script tag will get executed. But rather than executing the code now, I will execute that in a particular event. So I'd be treating the JavaScript code as a resource which will be utilized whenever we require. So here there's a script tag with its function with I have used a keyword called function, and the name is say hello. So make sure whenever you are invoking this particular function, you will have to pass this say hello, or whatever name you are passing to the function, you'll have to pass the name in the very same case. Inside this you can do any logical task which you want. Now here I just printed a message using document.write, or you can go for the alert as well. Hello there, a very simple message. Now let's come to the body, and you see without using the script tag I can call this particular function. How? There's a button which I have for which I have used the input tag of HTML. Type is equal to button, value is equal to say hello, on click. This is nothing but the event on which I am invoking the function. In this particular example, I will only take care of the on click event. In our next video we will cover some more events that can be used for calling the various functions of JavaScript. Now let's execute this particular program, and here you can see as soon as I will click over this button, you will get the message hello there. Let's refresh it, again click, again I got the same message. So this is how you can write a very basic function and can start invoking it. But whenever I will click on this particular button, I will get the very same output. Now if I want, like rather than passing hello there, I want to pass a particular name. So I should be able enough to pass some value in this function execution, so that every time I am calling this function I can pass various values, and using those various values I will be getting the different values in the output. So for that I will use the parameters. So now I have made a minor changes in this program, and in the say hello function I have passed two parameters with the name and age. So whatever you will pass, name is age years old, means that is the message that will be printed. But every time when you will enter a new name and new age, the output will be changed. So in the UI, that is in the body section, I have created a couple of text boxes with the name T1 and T2 respectively. The first text box is to take the name, the placeholder is there, enter name, and for the T2 it's enter age. So whatever value you will pass, when I'll click the button it will say hello, and the couple of values will be passed here. So first of all I will pass T1 dot value right here, and then in the second parameter, since it's for the age, second parameter, alright, so it's for the T2 dot value. Make sure the sequence of passing and passing the parameters by the time you are defining it and by the time you are calling it should be same. So as here, the first thing is the age, second thing is the, first thing is the name, second thing is the age. So similarly, I have passed the name first, then the age, because T1 is for the name and T2 is for the age. So let's execute this page now. As you can see, this is the placeholder. Alright, so I'll enter any value inside it, like let's enter any age, say hello. Similarly, alright, similarly, if I'll enter some new value, like let's say Amit 32, say hello, Amit is 32 years old. Alright, so this is how you can start passing the values inside the function body. Now let's say I want to terminate this particular function if no value is passed. So what can I do is I can simply write like if name is equal to blank, or means if any one of the text box is blank, age is equal to blank, then I want to terminate this particular function, and I have something called return keyword which is actually used to terminate the function. So here I am not specifying any value. If you want, you can specify any value as well, like return false, return true, or if any particular processed value you want to return, you can return anything. But here I just want like this particular statement should only execute when both the text boxes are filled. So let's execute it now. If I'll say hello, you see nothing is going on. Alright, but if I will comment these two lines and I'll refresh, you see blank is years old. Alright, so this is not the valid output I want. So that's why I added this particular condition, like this particular document.write statement will be executed only when both the text boxes are properly filled up. If anyone is blank, then nothing is going to happen. If both are blank and I entered name but still age is not there, so that's why. Now it is completed and I got the message as well. So this is how you can start working with the functions in JavaScript and can pass the value through the argument and can get the value from the function using the return keyword.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the events. Since JavaScript is a scripting for a web application which is nothing but a GUI, so event driven programming is very much related to the GUI applications. And now by working with the events, we are actually going to perform that event driven methodology. So here for performing the events, we will use the HTML attributes of the event type. Like for example, if I'm taking a button and I want something should happen when I click on that button, so this is nothing but an event. So for that I can go for on click. Similarly, if I want something should happen whenever my page gets loaded, so in the body tag I can pass on load attribute. So on load is nothing but again an event. Similarly, different elements of your DOM may have the different set of events, and you can call the specific methods which we have already done on a particular event so that that event will be more logical. So let's start implementing the method calls with the events now.
So now in this example we'll cover the couple of more events like mouse over and mouse out. So basically what I have done is in the body I have taken the image tag in which I have actually not specified any particular image, and I have also not specified the size of this img tag. That means I am taking the actual size of the image here. If you want, you can take the size as per your requirement. But apart from that, if I talk about the events in the body, I have called a method called onLoad. Means this particular event will be fired as soon as the page will be loaded on a particular browser. But at that particular time a particular image will be set to this img tag on the load event. So as you can see here, like the name of this img tag is img1, So I'm accessing that particular image from this load method, like document.images img1, and src means I'm setting the source for this particular img tag img1, which is there in the body. There may be a number of img tags in the body, so I'm specifying the specific one. Now here I have a couple of images like logo green and logo red. So on the load, I want this logo green to be there in the image, but as soon as I will put the mouse over that image, so as you can see here on mouse over, I have called a method called mouse over, and there I am setting the logo red.png. That means that particular image will be swapped and the new image will be there as soon as you will be putting the mouse over the image. But when you will move the mouse out of the image, this mouse out event will be called and it will again set the logo green in that image. So let's see how the output is looking like. So this is what the logo green is here. When I'll put the mouse over it, you can see this is the logo red, and now if I'll put the mouse out of this image, again this is logo green. So you can see the effect of the event like mouse out and mouse over. So this is how you can try some more events. In the tutorial you will find a list of events, so you can try any of the event on a particular control or the tag, and you can do the relevant operation on that event.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to deal with the error handling. Error handling is basically a very important concept in any scripting or programming language, because once you write a code and if it gets compiled or interpreted successfully, that means it is fine and now it's good to execute. But during the execution, anytime it may cause something which may result the error at the runtime, and those runtime errors are called exceptions. At the runtime, only the exceptions can be handled. For example, if you have any syntax or logical errors, we will not be able to handle such things. But if it is any runtime error or exceptions, that can be handled. How? We will use some keywords for that, like try, catch, finally, and throw. Each of these keywords has a different significance. For example, all the suspected code which I may think like it may cause some exception, so I will put all that suspicious code inside this try block. So if in case that gives you an exception, that can be handled by the catch block. But if it doesn't raise any error exception, so this catch will not be functioning. If I want manually to raise any exception, I can go for the throw keyword for that. And similarly, I have a finally keyword which will call its particular statements even though the exceptions are not handled. So rather than discussing here, now we can go on the systems and can start implementing the exception handling.
So here in the exception handling, I have created a very simple program here. So here, as you can see in the header, I have a script tag and I have created a function now also with the name myfunc. Now inside this I have taken a variable a in which I have assigned a number, any random number, let's say 100, and after that I will start working the implementation. So basically, as I said, with whatever the statement will feel like that maybe it may cause an exception, I will put all that particular code in the try block. If there is an exception, then that particular exception will be handled by the catch, and after that you may add a finally block which will be executing for sure. So for example, if you are writing something like you are establishing a connection or maybe getting the data from some external machine, so in that particular case there may be some situation like due to some network issues your communication or your execution is not happening properly. So the exception will occur, and if that occurs, the catch block will be in action. So doesn't matter even if the exception is there or not, this finally block basically executes every time. So for example, if you are establishing a connection with some external resource, so if you want to close the connection, you can do that inside the finally block, because if the communication is successful, it's okay. At the end, I would like to close the connection. If the connection is unsuccessful, or maybe there's some problem while reading the data, even though I want to close the connection. So such things which you must do at the end of the communication, or at the end of the any implementation, you'll have to put that inside the finally block. And now let's say what I have done here, since I just wanted to get an exception here, so what I did, I am just converting this a to the uppercase. But as we see, it is a number, and number cannot be converted to the upper or lower case, so obviously I will get an exception. So let's execute this program first without the this exception line. So let's refresh it, and if I'll click here, so as per the program, it will say value of variable a is 100. When I'll say okay, you see there is one more alert in the catch, but that error one is not executed, and then finally the control comes inside here. So finally block will always execute. Alright, now let's remove this comment, save the program, and refresh the browser. So here you see the error message is there. Alright, because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to convert the case of a number which is not possible. So let's say okay, and here you see finally block will always execute. So it doesn't matter whether there is an exception or not, the try block will execute for sure. If inside the try block any statement is causing an exception, then catch, and after catch finally block will execute. If there is no exception, then after catch directly finally block will execute. If you are writing a finally block, it will execute for sure, but it is never compulsory to add the finally block while working with the exception handling or error handling in JavaScript.
In this video of JavaScript, we are going to cover the cookies. As cookies is one of the very efficient way of maintaining the state on the client side. But before continuing with this state management thing, let's discuss what this is all about. Basically, when we work with any web application, for the server communication, we need to submit our page on the server side, and then it comes back after submitting the data. In short, we call this process is a post back. So for example, you have requested for a web form which came blank, and you entered some of the values in each text box of that form, and finally you can submit the value. Now when you submit that particular value, this HTTP protocol, which is a backbone of the client server communication in any web application, this HTTP protocol will take the HT, means hypertext, of the particular page, but the data which is associated with that web page which a user has entered will not be taken by this HTTP protocol. So in this round trip, means in this post back process, that data may get lost. So in order to not to do that, we have to go for the state management. So whenever you will go for any of the web development technology, in each technology you will find something related to this state management. And here in JavaScript, since we are working on the client side scripting, so here we will do the client side state management using the cookies. So whenever I talk about this cookie, that simply means I am going to create a text file on the client's machine, and the location of the text file may vary from browser to browser, as each browser has its specific paths to store the data. Whenever a user revisits the web page, some of the data may get read from the cookie, as it is a text file. So even if you will shut down your PC, or you will sign out from that web application, or you will close the browser, that file may still be there. So in order to that, we can go for the cookies. Here we have two types of cookies, such as the session cookie or persistent cookie. Session cookie is something which doesn't have a lifetime, means as soon as you will start communicating with the web application, your cookie will be generated and will work only for that specific session. But you may also add a time span which will make it a persistent cookie, and as soon as the lifetime of that cookie is there, that cookie will still be there unless and until you will remove it manually by going at that location, or you may also remove the cookies from the browser itself. So let's find out practically how can we start implementing the cookies in JavaScript.
So here in the implementation of cookies, what I have done, I have taken a very simple form in which a single text box in which I am asking for the name and a button on clicking on which I will create a cookie. So as you can see, on the click event of this button, I am calling a method called writeCookie, and here is inside this head in script tag we have the writeCookie method. Inside this, what we are doing is, if the text box value is blank, I am just giving an alert and terminating this function, because I want that there must be some name in the text box before someone clicks on the button. Once a user will enter some value into the text box, and whatever the value it will enter, that will store in the cookie value. Alright, so here you can see like document means this complete page, dot my form, the name of this form, dot customer, customer is what? Customer is the name of this text box, dot value. Alright, so we are actually getting that particular value, and with a semicolon I will assign that particular value in this cookie value variable. I haven't defined that, you can do that as well, like where cookie value is equal to this. It will not make any different. Now after that, what I'll do, I'll just take the document object, and here I will use the cookie property of it, and here what I'll do is I will write name is equal to, name is just a fixed literal string, and I'll concatenate that particular thing with this cookie value, means whatever we have got from the text box, and later I will simply print the value of that cookie. Alright, so once you will use this document.cookie, it will actually create a text file in the your system as per the browser, means next time when you will be back on this particular website, you can see that stored value. So let's execute this page. So here you can see there is a text box. If I will say click and enter some value, because the text box is blank, now I will enter like, I'll say set value, and here you see setting cookies name. Alright, the value means whatever I have entered in the text box. So this is how you can start working with the cookies in the JavaScript.
Now here in this video we are going to do some interactive things. Using some of the methods or timer like concepts, we can actually make some animation like things in your web page, and this will definitely not destroy the performance of the web page, as whatever functionalities we will make, it will all execute on the client side only, so there will not be any post back things happening. So let's see practically how to do some basic level of animations in your web page.
So here inside the body you can see like I have placed the img tag for putting the animation, and here I have 4 images in the same location, that is 1 2 3 4.png. Alright, and the name of this img tag is img1, so that I can access it from the JavaScript code from this name. And I have called a couple of methods which I'll discuss later, but before that let's go to the JavaScript tag to see how I have placed the animation. As here you can see in the very first line inside the script, I have placed an array of images in which I have just put the name of the images, as I said, 1.png, 2.png, 3.png and 4.png. So one by one I want these images will be set in the img tag, and for pointing each particular element of this array I have taken the I means index variable which will point an individual element of this array. Now after that I have taken a reference so that I can control the timer and the slideshow which I am getting started. I'll discuss about this ref later. Now inside this function pic library, what I have done is document.images. Since you can have a number of img tags in your document, I am asking for the first one with the index 0. Either you can use this particular name also inside this square bracket. So just I wanted to check, like the src will be arri. Initially the value of I is 1. The index will begin with 0, but I want that the it should start with the 1. Why? Because by default I have placed the 1.png in the img tag. Alright, so as soon as you will load it, you will see this 1.png, but after a second it will be changed to 2.png. How? Because this will do the thing. It will set the image at the index 1, and then it will do the increment by 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3. If this increment will make it greater than 3, I will reset the value to 0. Alright, and now I will create another function called start. Inside this I have used the set interval method. Basically this set interval method will take a couple of arguments. The first one is the callback function. So here I have passed the name of this function with the name pic library, and it will set like this set interval function will keep on calling this pic library after each 1000 milliseconds. So after each 1000 milliseconds this method will be called again every time the increment will be there. That's why I have taken this particular variable I outside the scope, outside the function as a global variable. Alright, now it will start the things, and now to stop and one more thing, by the time I was setting the interval, I assigned the reference of this interval to the variable called ref, which I have defined already. Now in this stop, when I want to stop the slideshow of the images, I will just pass that reference itself, because there may be a number of intervals there in the single HTML page. So I need to specify like which particular interval I need to clear. That means when I'll say clear interval ref, it will stop calling this pic library after each 1000 milliseconds, that is 1 second. And when actually I'm stopping that, as soon as you will put the mouse over the image, it will stop it. Means you can easily see that particular image, but as soon as you will say mouse out, again that particular interval would be set. So you can do that. And one more thing, I want this slideshow to be there, to be started as soon as the page gets loaded. So I can also call this start function on the onload event. So what I'll do, I'll simply say start. Alright, so now let's come to the browser and see how the output is looking like. So here you can see the different color of logos are there. Alright, so some of them are 1.png, 2.png and all. As soon as I will put the mouse over this image, you see now the image is not getting changed. Alright, but as soon as I will move the mouse out of the image, again this transition will begin. So in the same way you can use the set interval function for the different purposes, like if you want to change the color of the font or of the background at a particular time, you can just set the logic like this, and you can put some animations in the output on the client side.
In this video, we are going to cover the JavaScript objects. Basically, JavaScript here, which we are covering, is an object-based language. So what we can do, we can create an object and can fix some properties into it. Later, as per the requirement, I will be able to retrieve that particular object and the specific property which I want to read. So in this practical, we are going to create a such object, and to retrieve, we will also cover one more for in loop of JavaScript. So let's see now it practically.
Now here you can see I have created the first JavaScript object with the name tutorial, and inside this, rather than passing the single value, I have created multiple properties and have assigned the value in each property. Like I have created a variable or an object with the name tutorial, and inside that tutorial object I have placed three properties, that is topic, trainer and mode. So you can see each three property is having a value. So you can create a separate objects like that with the different properties and can assign the value. You can also create the array of such objects and can put in a separate file which we call the JSON file, that is JavaScript Object Notation, and you can use very different ways to read that particular JSON file which we have nowadays. Like you can read it from the Node application, from the Angular application. There are a number of ways, but here we are not going up to that level. You can check the different tutorials for that, but here particularly in this one I have created just a single object and can read the different properties out of this object. So as here you can see, topic is tutorial, means the object name, and by separating a dot with the dot you can pass the property name like tutorial.topic, tutorial.trainer, tutorial.mode. So make sure it's case sensitive, so you are using in the very same case. So if you will see the output, you can see like topic, trainer and the mode is online. So this is what when you want to read a particular object property by property. But we do have a loop here using which I can go for this object reading, and that is a for in loop. So if I'll see the syntax of the for in loop, you can see here, let me align this first. Alright, okay. So here what I have done is I have taken the text property here, text variable here, which is initialized with a blank. Alright, and then to point the specific property of this particular object, I have used this X. You can take anything. Alright, so now inside this for in, what is there? For X in tutorial, this is the main object, and X will be pointing the specific property inside this object. So you can see like tutorial X. So X means it will start from the 0, then it will point out the first property, second property and third property, and as many as there. So I'll concatenate that all the values, only the values. No, I'm not specifying the property name here, but just the value of each property will be concatenated to this string called txt, and I'm separating all the values with the comma. So if I'll refresh this page, you can see JavaScript, that is the first property value, the second property value, and then online the third property value. So it's all up to you, like how you want to read this specific object, either property wise like this, or you can do all the reading and can store all the values inside this string variable. And as in the string methods we have already done the split function, so later if you want to assign all these different values in the array, you can do that using this split method, and each value will be stored in the array. So this is all about the JavaScript object.
As we know, a website is nothing but a collection of interlinked web pages. So using hyperlink also, you can actually navigate from one page of a website to another. But if programmatically it is required, like after a particular operation you want to go to some other page, for example, as soon as you submitted your form, you want to go to another page which will give you confirmation like your data has been saved. So in any such scenarios, you can actually go for the page redirect in JavaScript, and here we have a method of Windows object called location. And inside this location method, you can actually pass a string parameter which will be a URL of a particular location where you want to go. So on a particular event like button click, as soon as this method will get called, your page will be redirected to that particular location. So let's see practically how this window.location works and what are their different parameters and overloadings available.
So in this particular program, I'm simply changing the location of one page to the another page. So in this particular page, what I am doing is I have simply placed a button with the text redirect me, and when you will click, this will call the redirect function. And inside this redirect function, what I have done is I have simply called this window.location property. It will simply change the location of your page, and whatever page you have specified will be shown to the user. So when I'll execute this, you can see I can also do that on a particular timeout basis. As you may have seen, like when you get a particular page, you will be shown some ads, and after that particular time, after some particular time, like maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, the actual site is there, means it will automatically redirect you to the actual website after that advertisement. So I can do that as well. So for that, I don't need this button. I'll remove this text, or I'll write something like you will be redirected in 5 seconds. Alright, and what I'll do is I'll call this function on the load method, like on load. I'll not call it directly, I'll call the timeout function, which will actually do the trick. Basically, this timeout function will call this redirect function, redirect. Alright, and let's put them in single quotations as I already have a double quotes. Alright, and now I'll do that after 5000 milliseconds. So this particular redirect function will be called on the load after 5000 milliseconds, because as soon as the body will get loaded, it will call this timeout function, and this timeout will give a callback to this redirect function after 5 seconds. So let's refresh the page. So this is the message which I have passed here. Alright, so it's not there. Let me check the code. Alright, actually there is some set timeout function is there rather than this timeout. There is a set timeout function which will do that particular task which I was just talking about. Now I'll call this set timeout, and let's refresh this page again. So maybe after 5 seconds I'll be redirected, and yes, as you can see, now I'm here in this website again. So this is how you can implement the page redirection while using the JavaScript.